Well, this was unexpected. A decent, dare I say it, good episode of Star Trek Discovery. Is this the end of the world? Hello everybody and welcome to another video from my series Quick Thoughts On, in which I always talk about different stories from the rich Star Trek universe. A few weeks ago, the next episode of Star Trek Discovery premiered. It was called Terra Firma Part 1, and these are my honest opinions about it. We start the episode with Dr. Hugh consulting the state of the Empress with David Cronenberg. David Cronenberg tells him the story of Darth Plagueis, sorry, wrong franchise, the story of Lieutenant Commander Yor, and it's kind of neat to see how the writers are trying to tie this show into the Star Trek franchise, unfortunately only with words. Yor was a time soldier from the Temporal War, which I guess is supposed to be the real version of the Temporal Cold War from Star Trek Enterprise, which is neat. Not only he was a time traveler, he also jumped from an alternate universe, which was created by a certain Romulan ship, aka Dinarada, commanded by Nero, as we have seen in Star Trek 2009. So with a few sentences, they mention both the real Star Trek and the so-called Kelvin timeline. Nice to see at least some level of caring. I actually looked up the writers of this episode and I was pleasantly surprised. This is the best episode any of the three of them was ever involved with. But of course, this is the Discovery, so it has to get stupid very soon, and they deliver on the stupid part immediately. You see, David Cronenberg explains to us that our molecules are meant to be working only in the time for which they were created. This is stupid. You know, every single living organism is constantly traveling through time, together with its cells and molecules. It's called aging, or living. Plus, people travel through time constantly in Star Trek, and none of them ever had any health problems from it. When Dr. Hugh tells David Cronenberg that he's full of crap because all of them jumped through time, David Cronenberg tells him that only one of them also jumped from an alternate universe. Bullcrap. You said that it's the time travel which caused the problem, and now you're suddenly pretending that it was a combination of both of them. Well, a pity we have never seen anything in Star Trek history where somebody would jump both in time and to a different universe, right? Oh wait, we did. For example, in Star Trek Enterprise, we had a two-part story in which a Constitution-class starship from the 23rd century and our universe jumped back to the 22nd century version of the mirror universe. I don't remember the crew of this ship being torn apart by their molecules, and apparently Yor was in such a pain that he requested euthanasia. Nice to see that the enlightened people in the future still help others to end their existence. I'm sorry, but the combination of the terms Starfleet and euthanasia, or however you Americans pronounce it, kind of sound very bad together. David Cronenberg tells Dr. Hugh that he shouldn't tell her anything because Terrans want to die. No, they are evil and violent. That doesn't mean they want to die. But why should a Star Trek writer know something like that, right? So Dr. Hugh feeds the computer with the necessary information, expecting a cure, and wow, they actually found something. By the way, does nobody care that the computer suddenly has a completely different voice? They even notice that their computer has its own AI and nobody cares. Have they never seen The Terminator? Have they never seen Season 2 of Discovery? Did they forget why did they come to the future? I start to think that these Starfleet officers are not very good at their jobs, even though it's hard to believe, I know. Empress Giorgio is meanwhile being her usual self, aka bitchy to everybody. She tries to take her cup in the mess hall, but her hands keep going through it in front of everybody. So when Tilly gets to her, telling her she's not alone, the Empress reacts in a very reasonable way. She throws her food on Tilly's uniform and basically threatens to kill her. Don't forget, we are supposed to like her and feel for her. I'm sorry that I don't feel bad for Space Hitler having health problems. She's evil, and during the last 2 seasons we have seen absolutely nothing to indicate that she will ever change. To me, she is the villain and I want to see her punished for her actions, but of course she gets rewarded almost like she was Michael or something. Do you remember the times when Star Trek stories were short morality plays? Why is on Discovery and Picard bad behavior both promoted and rewarded? The computer, or the two computers to be more precise, tell our heroes that the Empress should go to specific coordinates on an abandoned planet. They all want to go there, but Captain Saru shuts the mission down because the Discovery is going to be needed elsewhere, thanks to the Emerald Chain and their military exercises. Okay, so the captain said no, which means that it's the end, right? Well, the Admiral tells them to go anyway, right in front of Saru. Wow, what a dick. Why did he ignore Saru's authority? Also, he wants Michael to go with the Empress, but under one condition. She should tell him that she will be able to let her go? What the F? Seriously, what is the Admiral's problem? Is Michael some goddess or something? She's supposed to be right now only the science officer. She's supposed to offer scientific explanations and tips. She is not in charge. Why does everybody on this show behave like she's the leader of them? The Empress reacts to the news reasonably. She tries to murder Michael. Again, why should we like her? She wants to be killed by somebody? Okay, I mean, I don't see a problem with it. Just somebody kill her and let's move on with the plot, right? Oh no, she's somehow important for some reason. And to piss me off, she calls Michael the Archangel. Meanwhile, in the B-plot, the LGBT squad is segregated to the engine room, or actually to the spore room, or whatever this set is. Am I the only one who thinks that segregating LGBT people is weird and morally wrong? Did you notice that Adira interacts only with Dr. Hugh, Stamets and Jedrino, and out of these four, Stamets is the only one who has the right to interact with the straight people? Anyway, Adira makes a mistake for which she should be fired, or her bonuses should be cut or something, but of course nothing happens to her. She's again being treated like a victim. She's a victim because her dead boyfriend stopped talking to her, and they treat it like it's a bad thing. I can't believe that I have to say that, but not seeing dead people is normal. Seeing dead people and talking to them is not normal. Is that a bit clear for you now? Now, the algorithm has finally decrypted the encrypted distress call. Wait, I have a question. Why was the message in the distress call encrypted? I mean, you want to be saved, right? Anyway, they call Saru because they want the recording, and is a Kelpian woman with some marks on her head. And we finally get to the main plot of this episode, and I have to admit, I had no clue what is going to happen. And that's sometimes a good feeling. They have done finally something fresh, something interesting. They definitely deserve points for that. The Empress and Michael beam to the ice planet and they have to walk a long way through snow. I'm sorry, I have a question. They know the exact coordinates of where they should beam to. Why did they beam several miles away? Why don't they beam there now, since they have the personal transporters? Anyway, when they finally get there, they meet Carl. Who is Carl? Well, immediately when I've seen this scene, for whatever reason my brain started to play the main theme from Doctor Who. He's an old white guy sitting in a chair, reading his newspapers and smoking. Wow, a white man who is not evil, and he's smoking. You are breaking new barriers, Discovery. A positive depiction of a white man, that must be an error, right? And he's smoking. What is this, the 70s? So what is he? Is he a Q? Is he the Guardian of Forever? At the time of this writing, I haven't seen the next 2 episodes yet, so I am curious to see what they will come up with. Anyway, his newspapers are from tomorrow, and they say that the Empress has died a horrible death. He also tells her that the solution is to go through his door, so she goes through and finds herself in the mirror universe. and a few years before we have been there in season 1. I have to admit, this was a very pleasant surprise, because I actually kind of liked the Mirror Universe subplot in season 1, at least some episodes of it. We see Captain Killy again, and she looks great in leather. We also unfortunately see the Mirror Universe version of Michael, and she looks like a Batman villain. She looks terrifying, she makes horrible faces, and her makeup looks like her face is melting away or something. Jeez. Now, because I spoke for too long about the things which bothered me in the plot before, I will be very brief about this part of the episode. Giorgio has returned back to the times of the first uprising, the time when her ship, the Charon, was about to be Christianed, and when Michael was supposed to try to overthrow her together with Lorca. But this time she manages to change the future, or at least slightly. For example, she manages to kill Stamets, who survived in the first season, if I remember correctly. So to make the long story short, Mirror Stamets gets killed by the Empress, but she can't force herself to kill Mirror Michael, so instead they just arrest her and throw her into the Agonizer. Good stuff. The Empress also manages to save a life of a Kelpian, also played by Doug Jones, so probably he is supposed to be Mirror Saru, which others seem to take as a sign of her weakness. But that's a story for next time. This is the first story by Bo Young Kim and Erika Lippold, which wasn't awful. Congratulations. I think that when I talked about them the last time, I called them something like diversity hires, and now for the first time ever it feels like they deserved their paycheck. Did they actually improve, or is this episode so much better because they were credited only for the story and the script was actually written by Ellen McElroy? I don't know, we'll hopefully see in the future, but right now I'm slightly optimistic. This episode was pretty good. Was it great? No, I'd never call it great. It had way too many stupid things in it for me to call it like that, but it wasn't awful, and unfortunately being not awful means for Discovery the same as being great meant for old Star Trek shows. The bar has been lowered so much that I am even happy that I have seen something which made sense most of the time and managed to surprise me. On my overall scale from 0 to 10, where 0 is absolute garbage, 10 is a masterpiece, and 5 is just average, I will give this episode 7 out of 10. I enjoyed it, but it was way too dumb for a higher score. But as always, these were just my opinions. Let me know what did you think about this episode down in the comment section, and we see each other very soon, hopefully tomorrow. Bye.